The US has its share of baffling mysteries, and here are some events that were strange enough to hit the news headlines. The vanishing car. On the 30th of December 2019, emergency services were alerted by a call to Graywell Cove State Beach in California. An anonymous witness reported seeing a Lexus SUV driving over a cliff and plummeting into the ocean below. Authorities immediately summoned reinforcements, which included the US Coast Guard, and scoured the area for 6 hours, seeking any evidence of driver or vehicle. The search was suspended as water conditions became hazardous and evening fell. The only proof they had of a car plunging from the cliff edge was dashboard camera video, some vehicle fragments, and tire tracks in the sand around the cliff precipice. Doubts were raised that the video may have been fabricated, given that there was no car found in the water or any indication of human remains. However, on the 16th of January 2020, an additional witness volunteered evidence which corroborated the report, confirming that they also had seen the car tearing over the cliff face. Some car parts have since washed up on surrounding beaches, which police are examining, but so far there's been no trace of either human remains nor readily identifiable parts of a Lexus SUV. There is also still no missing person or missing vehicle report registered that might be related to the incident. The man bat. In a sighting that is similar to accounts of the Mothman, a father and son were travelling along Briggs Road in Wisconsin in September 2006 when the headlights of their pickup revealed a huge winged creature flying directly towards them. The terrified pair froze, simply waiting for the impact, but seconds before the being threatened to crash into their windshield, it uttered a piercing howl and flew above them into the night. After the incident, the father and son were both overcome by severe nausea and remained unwell for the next week. Their experience remains the only sighting of the creature now dubbed the Beast of Briggs Road and the man-bat due to its massive leathery wings and bat-like appearance. The father, Wahali, claimed that the creature's wings had a span of 10 to 12 feet, obvious ribs, humanoid legs and clawed appendages. Terrifyingly, his eyes glowed yellow, and the snarling face revealed rows of pointy sharp teeth. To Wahali, the creature seemed not only hungry, but also very angry to have been spotted. Author Linda Godfrey has deemed Wahali a sincere witness and plans to include the strange encounter in a book documenting supernatural occurrences in Wisconsin, whilst acknowledging that exactly what the two men witnessed that day is still a mystery. The missing town of Urkhammer. Over the years, towns have come and gone in America's geographically central states, but one small Iowa town seems to have met a bizarre end. In 1928, the well-kept town of Urkhammer in Iowa was an organised little metropolis like any small American town of the time, with trimmed grass, well-maintained roads and new buildings being constructed. Until a 1929 article published in the Clarion Sun-Telegraph local newspaper in Davenport reported two strange phenomena. Aerial photos taken of the area showed that no town existed in that location, only showing fields where houses and roads should have been, as if the town was not actually there. The place looked empty and desolate. This could have been dismissed as a mistake or photo anomaly until a report emerged from a traveller who had stopped in Urkhammer to fill his car's gas tank. Driving away, he soon realised his tank was still near empty, and he immediately turned his car to return and demand the gas he had paid for. However, he drove and drove without reaching the town, and finally running out of gas, got out and walked towards it for 2 hours, apparently seeing it before him but never able to reach it. Bizarre reports started from people passing through the town. Some claim that the place was abandoned, while investigations revealed that the buildings were apparitions. Others claim seeing the town evaporating into thin air. Several serious newspaper reports of the phenomenon were forgotten with the stock market crash of 1929. While it is said that years later people moved into the area and found the remnants of what used to be the town of Urkhammer, The original account has also been debunked as an internet legend. Eerie Child's Play. A 100-year-old iron casket is kept on the second floor of the Gregg County Historical Museum in Texas. Larry Currington, the museum director and volunteer, spends a lot of time in the museum and has told 40 News that sometimes when he is on duty downstairs, he clearly hears the sound of a child's footsteps running up and down the floor near where the casket stands. Currington also reports that he isn't the only one to hear the patter of these little feet, but that others working alongside him also hear them. The coffin was discovered by workers near downtown Longview. When opened, it revealed the well-preserved remains of a small girl with the estimated age of around 5 or 6. It was ascertained that she was holidaying with her family in the 1880s when she passed, and because they were unable to transfer back to West Texas, her family decided to bury her in a donated coffin. The child's remains were reinterred at Greenwood Cemetery, but the coffin was taken to the museum where it has been stored since 1980. Currington has invited a paranormal team to the museum who informed him that the site was home to 5 distinct hauntings. However, they were unable to clarify whether the little girl was one of these spirits seemingly playing around her century-old casket on the second floor of the museum. Mysterious drones. Strange flying objects identified as unusually large drones and observed above Colorado's eastern plains hit the headlines in December 2019. Sightings persisted into 2020, and a total of 23 drone activity reports were registered by police between the 6th and the 13th of January. However, the drones were never identified, and it is still a puzzle as to who was operating them. It was first observed that a large flock of drones would hover at about 300 feet in the air over northeast Colorado, and then started zooming about in square formations. It was calculated that there were about 17 of the flying bots, and that they were in operation between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. at night. Local officials were quizzed, including the Air Force and the Department of Defense, but no one could explain the persistent appearance of the drones. Hundreds of sightings of large wingspan drones flying in patterns or groups were subsequently reported from Nebraska, Wyoming, and California. They were witnessed by both residents and law enforcement officers and stirred up public concern about safety and privacy. Some media outlets downplayed the reports, claiming that the objects may have been birds or floating plastic bags. The FBI and Federal Aviation Administration formed a task force to investigate the phenomenon without a result, while reports of sightings dropped off due to witnesses being discredited and trolled online. Finally, the Colorado Department of Public Safety could find no evidence substantiating the reports of the suspicious drones. It determined that the objects were either stars or smaller hobbyist drones. As the reported drone sightings have virtually ceased, it seemed unlikely that the mystery of the sinister presences would be solved. The Nevada Triangle. In Nevada, there is an infamous geographical triangle which covers a vast region stretching from California, Nevada, and out west to Arizona, and includes Las Vegas, Yosemite National Park, and the high-security US base Area 51. Within the huge area, which is half the size of England, more than 2,000 planes and hundreds of pilots have mysteriously vanished as if into thin air, with most of the remains never located. The best-known aviation mystery is that involving billionaire Steve Fossett, a highly experienced pilot who disappeared on the California-Nevada border in 2007 in his air balloon. The wreckage and traces of Fossett's remains, as well as 8 previously identified crash sites, were found more than a year into an extensive search. The accident has never been explained, despite theories about strong downdrafts in the remote zone. Other strange occurrences in the Nevada Triangle include a B-52 bomber, which was reported missing in 1943 and later discovered submerged in a reservoir in 1955. In 1957, another military aircraft went missing, and after a thorough but unsuccessful search, the pilot of the plane was declared deceased. However, 54 days after the accident, the pilot emerged from Kings Canyon National Park. He related how something had bizarrely exploded within his plane, forcing him to eject from the flight. He had survived by finding wild sources of food before eventually reaching the park. Scientists are still at odds as to why the Nevada Triangle appears to swallow up planes, but in the meantime, it seems like a good place to avoid. The Stalker. Over months in 2007, 3 families in Fircrest, Washington endured a terrifying phone harassment campaign which is still unexplained. In the absence of today's technology, an anonymous aggressor turned 16-year-old Courtney Cookendale's cell phone into a sinister device for spying, tracking and threats. The stalker infiltrated the phone networks of Courtney, her friends and family, calling them around the clock and making dire threats against them, their grandparents and even pets. The voice of the nasty perpetrator was described as throaty juvenile rasps stolen from bad horror movies. His or her targets received multiple voicemail messages which included playing recordings of their conversations with police and describing what they were wearing or doing at any given time, as if the stalker were in the room with them. For example, one of the victims was chopping limes when the message came through, "I prefer lemons." Confiscating Courtney's phone did nothing to stop the harassment, with the stalker even stating the new passcode for the family security system moments after they had changed it. The local police seemed powerless as their investigations uncovered no leads regarding the identity of the stalker. At one stage, they even suspected the family of fabricating the occurrences, despite electronic surveillance experts confirming that phones, even the landlines still in use, could be hacked remotely. Interestingly, once the FBI became involved, the prankster backed off and stopped the harassment, but the identity still remains a mystery.